Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this special preview of Met Media's Super Tuesday coverage. I'm Brenden Mincheff.
And I'm Hunter Ausfahl. Tonight, we're going to break down one by one the remaining candidates in the Democratic primary, starting with Tulsi Gabbard.
She's a four-term congresswoman from Hawaii. She's been in the Army National Guard now for a while, and she's the only active military member in Congress.
She actually took 2 weeks off to do her military duty during her campaign.
And she's been in this race longer than most of the candidates have. So let's go ahead and take a look at Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
U.S. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard has made a life of civil service. Her political career began in 2002 at the age of 21 when she was elected to Hawaii House of Representatives, becoming the youngest legislator in the state's history. After one term in office, Representative Gabbard enlisted in the Army National Guard and served 2 tours, one in Iraq from 2004 to 2005 in a field medical unit, and one in Kuwait from 2008 to 2009 as an Army military police platoon leader. She still serves in the Army to this day and holds the rank of major. In 2012, the then city councilwoman ran for one of Hawaii's House of Representatives seats in Washington and has been representing Hawaii's District 2 for the past 7 years. During her time in Congress, she has served on the Homeland Security Committee, the Financial Services Committee, Armed Services Committee, and the Foreign Affairs Committee. In January of 2019, Representative Gabbard announced that she would be running for president and has been pounding the pavement ever since, spreading her word on her stance on issues from veterans' benefits to securing our elections. According to the official Tulsi 2020 campaign website, Representative Gabbard has gone on record by saying, quote, "We need to ensure we have clear, enforceable, accessible, and humane pathway to citizenship. Most urgently, we must pass DACA to ensure children who know no other home are allowed to remain in the U.S. and take steps to ensure children are not separated from their parents." Congresswoman Gabbard has supported numerous immigration reform acts in Congress, such as House Resolution 3440 DREAM Act, as well as House Resolution 532 Dreamer Information Protection Act, which prohibits using DACA hearings for deportation. On higher education, the Congresswoman's campaign website also quotes her on saying, quote, "We need to make sure we are investing in the future of all of our children. In order to invest in our future, we have to provide adequate resources and meaningful accountability to ensure that all of our students have equal access to quality education." The Congresswoman has supported House Resolution 1880 College for All Act of 2017, a bill that amends the Higher Education Act of 1965 to establish a grant program to eliminate tuition and required fees for college students. Representative Gabbard's campaign site also explains her stance on a green new economy by, quote, "We need to invest in 100% renewable and safe energy sources like wind, solar, and geothermal. I also support a ban on fracking, ending the $26 billion a year fossil fuel subsidies." End quote. The Congresswoman aims to create jobs in renewable energy and work hard towards having clean air and water for all Americans.
Next up, former mayor of New York City, Michael Bloomberg, did jump into this race late, but he definitely made a splash when he did.
He certainly has. He's been spending a lot of money in advertising right now, outspending all of the candidates combined. It jumped in November, I believe.
It's projected that he's going to spend more money on his political campaign than any presidential candidate has ever spent on a political campaign.
It's hard to believe, and we're going to see tomorrow if it all pays off. So let's take a look now at candidate Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
The former mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, is a late addition to the presidential race, participating in only 2 of the Democratic primary debates so far. While many of his opponents rely on donations and other kinds of support, Michael Bloomberg is largely financed by his own billions of dollars. His current net worth is approximately $55.4 billion, and he has spent over $130 million of his own money on his campaign. Mike Bloomberg, as of March 1st, stands 3rd, according to the 538.com polls. But where does Bloomberg stand on the issues? We decided to take a thorough look at his plans on immigration, education, and climate change. While Bloomberg does have a lot of progressive-sounding ideas that are similar to other front-running candidates, his policies certainly are not identical to his progressive opponents. Michael Bloomberg's position on immigration commits to protections for dreamers ends family border separation, rescinds the travel ban imposed by Trump, and eliminates the construction of the U.S.-Mexico border wall.
I believe, as president, I will get through a bill to give a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million people. Number one, we're not going to deport them. We couldn't deport them if we wanted to, and we don't want to. But ripping babies out of parents' arms, I'm a father, and I think to myself, what would I do if it was my kid?
Meanwhile, Bloomberg's outlook on education includes free 2- and 4-year college tuition for the lowest income students, more affordability for middle-class families, and student loan forgiveness after 20 years. According to his website, he plans to, quote, increase Pell Grants and make direct investments in historically black colleges and universities and institutions, as well as underrepresented groups. Mike Bloomberg has made his thoughts on climate change known numerous times, even well before the election or his announcement. His intentions include rejoining the Paris Climate Accords, clean energy use, and affordability of clean energy while ending subsidies for fossil fuels.
Earth is warming. There is no question about it. You can see it in ocean temperatures and ocean height. You can see it in droughts and in floods and in ice caps melting. You can see it with farmers. It is happening, number one. Number two, it could get to a point that is cataclysmic for the world where everything dies. And number three, even if you don't think there's any remote possibility of that happening, the consequences are so great if things go wrong that you cannot sit around and do nothing. You have to put this at the top of your list. We've got to do something about stopping the warming of the earth.
At this point, the most certain thing about Michael Bloomberg's campaign is that he must make a big showing for Super Tuesday if he hopes to secure the Democratic nomination.
Next on our list is Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts. She is a former law school professor. She's one of the candidates not branding herself as a democratic socialist, but is in favor of policies like Medicare for All.
Yeah, she's running heavily on a Medicare for All campaign. One of the only candidates left still doing that.
Yeah, and she hasn't had a strong showing yet in the early voting states, but we're coming up on some pretty liberal states tomorrow, including Colorado and California, so we're going to find out how well she does. Let's go ahead and preview Senator Elizabeth Warren.
This is Massachusetts Senator and 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren, a woman that is devoted to proving that she isn't just a woman, but a serious presidential contender.
Every time somebody tells you a woman can't beat Donald Trump, well, I don't know about a woman, but I'll tell you Elizabeth Warren can beat Donald Trump. And if anyone doubts, I'm just offering you this. I think there's a 50-50 chance that Donald Trump looks at debating me and doesn't even show up.
Warren stands on her 30 years of law experience as a professor at top-tier colleges and her 8-year tenure as Massachusetts senator. Warren and her husband Bruce have been married for 38 years with 3 grandchildren. So, naturally, education has been made a necessity for her higher education campaign. Warren sees higher education as a main part of her Reformation policy, free public college for all and loan cancellation based on household income. To cover the costs, the senator proposes an ultra-millionaire tax, charging families worth more than $50 million an additional 2% annual tax. FastWeb's Mark Kandrasky wrote in a 2009 article that 71% of college dropouts list having to work as a reason for dropping out. Warren wants to combat this issue head-on. Extending her family image, Warren's immigration policy is firm.
But the fact that those families are being separated at the border, the fact that children are being torn out of the arms of their mothers is on Donald Trump's head and nobody else. That's right. Let's face it, we need comprehensive immigration reform. We need real change. We need systemic change.
Warren wants to reform immigration policy and finds family separation to be unacceptable and on the Trump administration. She believes that there have been atrocities on the border that people must be held accountable for. Warren wants to enact the decriminalization of crossing the border without papers, reducing immigration detention, and increasing funding for Central American aid. Funding is a major part of her campaign, especially with climate change.
I believe our best shot, in fact, I believe our only shot to beat back the effects of climate change and save this planet and save our people is to make the investment on research, development, basic science, applied science, increased by tenfold what we're spending.
Warren hopes to further the United States' efforts in climate awareness. Her policies include the decarbonization of America's sectors, climate-friendly agricultural practices, and the conservation of public lands. According to Warren, she wants to create solutions that are just and sustainable for all Americans. Warren's most recent polls have her in fourth, floating between Pete Buttigieg and Michael Bloomberg. Bernie Sanders has a strong hold in the polls after Joe Biden took a dip in numbers to start 2020. In Oklahoma at heart, Warren is making her push for the presidency. First, she must get through the Democrats.
Next up, we're going to talk a little bit about former Vice President Joe Biden. Joe Biden didn't really make his mark in the first couple early states, but South Carolina, he kind of had a landslide victory there. And with a few candidates dropping out, including Buttigieg and Klobuchar, it seems like there's a lot of votes for Biden to pick up.
He always said South Carolina was going to be his firewall. And for a while it looked like, especially after Iowa and New Hampshire, that maybe was not going to be the case. But interestingly, it came through. He got the vote in Iowa, and all of a sudden his campaign looks like it's probably the one to beat.
I don't think anyone's sleeping on Joe Biden anymore, so let's take a look.
After serving as vice president for Barack Obama from 2009 to 2017, Joe Biden is running on his own for the presidency in 2020. Biden, the former senator, became the youngest senator ever when elected at age 29 back in 1973. Biden represented Delaware in the Senate until he became the vice president, and after not running in the 2016 election, he looks to return to the White House, this time in the Oval Office. With Super Tuesday approaching, let's look now at some of the former vice president's plans if he does get elected. Former Vice President Biden's plans for immigration involve overturning much of what President Trump has put in place. Biden, if elected, will try to restore many of the policies that were instituted during the Obama-Biden administration, including the DACA and DAPA programs. Biden says that within the first 100 days of being elected, he will reverse the policies that separate parents from their children at the border and in Trump's asylum policies. He also has plans to cut funding for the border wall and to overturn the travel bans meant to restrict the number of Muslims entering the country. With college tuition rates skyrocketing, many people are unable to afford to go to college without taking on lots of debt. Former Vice President Biden plans to create ways to make higher education more affordable. He plans to do this by making 2 years of community college free. This would halve the debt taken on by someone obtaining a 4-year degree. Those who have an income of $25,000 or less per year would not owe anything on their loans and would not accrue interest on those loans either. Those making more than $25,000 will pay back 5% of their loan per year, up to 20 years, after which the remaining balance would be forgiven. With climate change continuing to be a hot topic, former Vice President Biden has plans to stop this climate emergency. Biden's plan would ensure the U.S. achieves 100% clean energy economy and reaches net zero emissions no later than 2050. His plan also includes rallying the rest of the world to take action against climate change as well. To create more environmentally friendly transportation, Biden envisions the creation of another great railroad revolution, reinventing the current transportation system and making it more efficient and environmentally friendly. Biden would also make climate change a core national security policy to ensure it receives proper attention going forward. As the gun control debate rages on, former Vice President Biden has his own ideas for ending gun violence. Biden will immediately look to hold gun manufacturers accountable for their products and will also ban the sale of assault rifles and high-capacity magazines. By requiring background checks for all gun sales, Biden plans to keep guns out of dangerous hands, including those convicted of committing a hate crime. By closing loopholes during gun sales, Biden looks to ensure that dangerous people will be unable to acquire firearms. In order to reduce gun violence in urban communities, Biden has plans for community-wide interventions in an effort to deter potential aggressors from committing gun violence in the future. The former vice president is up against long odds entering Super Tuesday, but after finishing second in Nevada, he received much-needed support to help his campaign. Biden's path to becoming the Democratic representative will not be an easy one, but he now has hope, and tonight will go a long way towards determining his fate going forward.
And last but not least on our list is Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont. Not a surprise candidate here by any means. Doing very well, which is expected after the 2016 campaign that he ran against Hillary Clinton, where really nobody expected him to do much of anything.
I'd say, even though he is currently the front runner, he is definitely the most talked about candidate in this entire race.
He is, but
whether that's for good or bad.
it is yet to be seen. I think tomorrow we're really going to find out whether this consolidation behind Joe Biden is going to hurt the Sanders campaign or if it's really not going to matter.
It's going to be a really good test of momentum.
It is.
Does Joe Biden have the momentum just from South Carolina and his new reconsolidation of the moderate Democratic side to take on Bernie Sanders' really strong base? That's what we're going to find out tomorrow.
But before we get there, we're going to take a quick look at Senator Bernie Sanders.
I've spent my entire political life fighting for those people who do not have the wealth and the power.
Democratic frontrunner Senator Bernie Sanders has strong momentum after a landslide victory in Nevada and 2 strong leads in Iowa and New Hampshire. Since his last run in 2016, he has kept an increased support for his campaign, giving him a fundraising lead over his other opponents using only grassroots support. Here's a closer look at his policies and beliefs on immigration, higher education, and climate change. Sanders' immigration policy roots from his immigrant father, who came from a war-torn Poland at the age of 17 to escape poverty and danger.
I am the son of an immigrant. All right, my dad came to this country at the age of 17 without a nickel in his pocket, couldn't speak a word of English, had very limited education.
Sanders intends to create a comprehensive immigration reform plan that would aid the 12 million undocumented immigrants living in the shadows in the United States. His first step, immediately reinstate DACA for the 1.8 million Dreamers currently eligible for the program. Senator Bernie Sanders will ensure all children who were separated from their families by the U.S. government are reunited immediately.
We changed border policy so that federal agents will never snatch babies from the arms of their mothers.
Speaking about families, Sanders' higher education plan stands on these grounds. He believes that regardless of a family's income, students should be able to obtain a good education.
When we talk about public education, it should include free tuition at public colleges and universities. That's what I believe.
If Sanders makes it to the White House, he will enact the College for All Act, an act that will provide $48 billion per year to eliminate tuition and fees at four-year and other public colleges. Much like his views on higher education, Bernie takes a firm stance on climate change. He does so through his Green New Deal.
Today we are telling the fossil fuel industry as loudly and clearly as we can that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet.
Sanders states that the climate crisis is not only the single greatest challenge facing our country, but it is also our greatest opportunity to build a more just and equitable future. Therefore, his plans are to transform our energy system to 100% renewable energy and with that create 20 million jobs. Bernie Sanders believes we need to keep our planet healthy and habitable, not only for ourselves, but for future generations. Arguably, one of Bernie Sanders' most controversial policies revolves around healthcare. His plan, free healthcare for all.
We've got to create a healthcare system that works for you and for all of us, and not just for the insurance companies.
Sanders will create a Medicare for All, single-payer national health insurance program to provide everyone in America with comprehensive health care coverage, free at the point of service. His health care plan also includes lowering the prices of prescription drugs through the Medicare Drug Price Negotiation Act.
There are people who are dying in America because they cannot afford the outrageous cost of prescription drugs in this country.
Bernie has proved he is a strong candidate for the Democratic Party.
Well, I'm not really sure what we're going to be looking forward to tomorrow. This campaign has changed drastically just in the last 48 hours, with Steyer, Klobuchar, and Buttigieg all dropping out in the last couple days. It's really a different election than we saw in Nevada and New Hampshire and Iowa. We're really looking at a completely different consolidation of candidates, and I think anyone knows what's going to happen.
We've come a really long way since Iowa, when Buttigieg and Sanders split the vote and the delegate count. And just a month later, Buttigieg is no longer in the race, and we're on Super Tuesday. So it's going to be interesting. Biden, according to 538, is forecast with 17% chance to win the majority of delegates. Sanders also has 17% chance to win the majority of delegates.
But this is also Bloomberg's really first
real test. Yeah, so he hasn't been on any ballots yet.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been on a single ballot yet, so we're really going to see how Bloomberg factors into this. And of course, Warren, too, what are her supporters going to do? Are they going to continue to rally behind her, or are they going to jump ship onto another candidate?
And the Klobuchar supporters, because Minnesota votes tomorrow as well, and a lot of people have already early voted So it'll be interesting to see. Just within the last few days here, 538 now gives it a 66% chance that we're going to have a contested convention in June. So it'll be interesting to see if those numbers change tomorrow. But that's all we have for you tonight. Be sure to tune in tomorrow on our website and our Facebooks for up-to-the-minute coverage of Super Tuesday 2020. I'll be here in the office. We'll bring in Nancy Esquivel of Noticiero TV Met tomorrow to provide some analysis, and then we'll be rotating in people. Hunter, you might make an appearance tomorrow.
I sure will try.
We'll see. And we're also going to have some people from our newspaper, The Metropolitan, joining us. So be sure to come back tomorrow.
It's going to be a big day in politics, big day here at Met Media.
Politics tomorrow and here at Met Media. Have a good night, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us.